The pirate life sounds amazing until you realize the treasure chest was mostly empty, the ship smelled like death, and your retirement plan was usually a rope. In movies, pirates are basically ocean rock stars. They drink rum, swing swords, bury gold, shout dramatic things at the sky, and somehow always have perfect eyeliner. But the real pirate life was not a vacation with cannons. It was wet wood, rotten food, infected wounds, brutal storms, and the constant possibility that tomorrow morning you would either be rich or hanging in a harbor as a warning to everyone else. The Golden Age of Piracy, roughly the late 1600s to early 1700s, gave us names like Blackbeard, Calico Jack, Anne Bonny, Mary Read, and Black Bart Roberts. But most pirates were not legends. Most were desperate sailors, escaped laborers, former Navy men, and broke young guys who looked at normal life and thought, yeah, I'd rather gamble everything on crime. And weirdly, for some of them, that made sense, because life on a legal ship was already horrible. Merchant sailors worked brutal hours for terrible pay. Navy sailors could be forced into service by press gangs. Captains could beat you, starve you, underpay you, and work you until your body gave out. So when a pirate crew captured a ship and said, "Join us or die," some sailors probably looked around and thought, honestly, this might be the best job offer I've had all year. And in some ways it was. Pirate ships were surprisingly democratic. Captains could be voted in, captains could be voted out. The crew often agreed on written rules called articles. These rules decided how loot was split, how punishments worked, and what happened if someone lost a limb in battle. Yes, pirates had workplace injury compensation. If you lost an arm, you might get a payout. If you lost a leg, you might get a different payout. The captain got more loot than everyone else, but not an insane amount more. If a regular pirate got one share, the captain might get two. That sounds fair, until you remember the company business model was armed robbery. Every man had a job. The quartermaster handled discipline and loot. The carpenter kept the ship from falling apart. The gunner managed the cannons. The cook tried to turn salted meat and rock-hard biscuits into something that didn't immediately ruin everyone's intestines. And the food was disgusting. At the start of the voyage, you might have had fresh meat, fruit, cheese, and decent bread. A few weeks later, you had salted beef, dried peas, and hardtack. Hardtack was basically a biscuit designed to survive the apocalypse. Sailors sometimes ate it in the dark, so they didn't have to see the weevils crawling inside. Water went stale, meat rotted, rats got into everything, and if supplies ran low, dinner became whatever you could catch, steal, or convince yourself was food. Rum helped, not medically, just emotionally. But the worst part was the ship itself. A pirate ship was not spacious. It was a floating wooden workplace packed with sweaty men, animals, weapons, barrels, smoke, sewage, and disease. Privacy did not exist. Your bed was a hammock. Your bathroom was basically the ocean, but with worse balance. And the smell? Imagine a gym locker room, a fish market, a hospital, and a garbage fire, trapped inside a damp wooden box. That was home. And then there was disease. Scurvy could make your gums swell, your teeth loosen, and old wounds reopen. Dysentery could tear through a crew. Infections were everywhere because everything was dirty, wet, and full of sharp metal. If you got badly injured, the ship's surgeon might help. If there was no surgeon, the carpenter might step in. Because apparently, if you can saw wood, you can saw a leg. There was no proper anesthesia. Maybe rum, maybe a dirty rag to bite. Pirate life was freedom, but it was freedom with gangrene. Then came battle. Pirates preferred fear over fighting. The perfect pirate attack was one where the victim surrendered immediately. That's why reputation mattered. If a merchant ship saw a terrifying flag, a heavily armed crew, and a captain with a name like Blackbeard, they might decide their cargo was not worth becoming human confetti. Blackbeard understood this better than anyone else. He would reportedly put slow-burning fuses under his hat or in his beard during battle, surrounding his face with smoke. Was it practical? Not really. Was it terrifying? Absolutely. And fear saved time, because actual naval combat was horrifying. Cannons didn't just make neat little holes, they turned wood into flying knives. Then came boarding, smoke, shouting, pistols, cutlasses, axes, blood, chaos, and everyone trying not to slip on a deck that had suddenly become a nightmare. But even after winning, pirates had a problem. Most treasure was not treasure. They were usually stealing sugar, cloth, tobacco, spices, medicine, tools, alcohol, weapons, and coins if they were lucky. The classic chest full of gold was rare. Most pirates were not swimming in jewels. They were stealing cargo and trying to sell it before the Navy caught them. And when they got paid, many pirates spent the money immediately. Port towns were dangerous, loud, and full of taverns, gambling, sex workers, merchants, smugglers, and people very interested in separating pirates from their money. A pirate could risk his life for months, finally get a payout, walk into port feeling like a king, and be broke 3 days later, which meant back to sea, back to storms, back to hunger, back to the wooden box of smells. And storms might have been worse than enemies. A hurricane could snap masts, tear sails apart, flood the decks, scatter ships, and drown men before anyone even had time to be dramatic about it. There is no sword fight with the storm. You just hold on and hope the ocean gets bored. And this is the part people forget. Pirates were criminals, yes, but they were also workers inside one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. The sea did not care if you were brave. It did not care if you had a cool nickname. It did not care if you had a dramatic hat. One bad wave could erase you. Still, pirate crews had their own strange culture. They sang, they gambled, they argued, they repaired sails, they cleaned weapons, they divided loot, they voted, they punished thieves among themselves. Some pirate articles banned gambling, some banned bringing women on board. Some required lights out at a certain time, which is hilarious because imagine becoming an outlaw of the sea and still having bedtime rules. But discipline mattered. A ship was a tiny society. If everyone did what they wanted, everyone died. So pirates created order inside chaos. Break the rules and punishment could be brutal. You could be whipped. You could be marooned on an island with a bottle of water, a pistol, and the worst survival odds imaginable. Or worse, pirates were not gentle people, but they were not mindless savages either. Many understood that their survival depended on cooperation. A pirate ship worked because everyone knew the deal. Fight together, steal together, split the reward, don't betray the crew. But pirate life had one huge problem. It usually did not last. The average pirate career was short, often just a couple of years. Not 20 years of adventure, not a long retirement with a Paris and a beach house, a couple of years. After that, you were dead, captured, pardoned, or hiding under a fake name somewhere, pretending you had always been a fisherman. Governments eventually cracked down hard. The British Navy expanded anti-pirate patrols. Colonial governors offered pardons to pirates who surrendered. Pirate hunters tracked famous crews. Captured pirates were dragged into court and often sentenced to hang. And the executions were public. Crowds gathered to watch. The message was clear. This is what happens when you rob the empire. Some bodies were displayed in iron cages near harbors, left to rot where sailors could see them. A final advertisement for obedience. So, what was life like as a pirate? It was not freedom the way movies sell it. It was freedom with a countdown. You could vote for your captain. You could split the loot. You could terrify merchant ships. You could drink in port and feel, for one night, like the world belonged to you. But every storm, every infection, every navy ship, every empty barrel, and every courtroom was waiting to remind you of the truth. Pirates did not live outside the rules. They lived in tiny, violent gaps before the rules caught up. And for a short time, that gap must have felt like the whole world. Then the rope dropped.